Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's Daily Brief. Woohoo, party! Woohoo! Hey, everyone. Nice to see you all. Interesting how we had such a jam-packed Daily Brief yesterday, and not as many people in the lounge this morning, and yet we had just an absolute face-rip move here in crypto. So, hope you guys are ready for an action-packed episode here. We got lots to cover, and of course, such a great analogy of never short a dull market. So great to see we got a bid coming back in on the crypto space. And it was weird. I was listening to a couple guys saying, yesterday, there's no correlation between the stock market and crypto, but gee whiz, the stock market broke there nicely, and all of a sudden crypto caught a bid, and away we go. So I don't know. But I suppose that's an ongoing debate. But long and short of it here is, I think, maybe we're probably, we've talked lots about this on the site. Typical bear markets are 18 months in duration, and we're 14 months in. So we're awfully due for some sort of consolidation period. Is this 2015? Do we have to wait for capitulation? If anything, the one good thing that I like is that finally CNBC didn't actually have their trade manufactured to stop everybody out. So if anything, maybe we all should give a shout out to actually see if CNBC actually stayed in their long call and they actually got one right, but we'll see how it goes. All right. So as always, we want to do a nice little introduction of our panel here this morning. So we've got, as always, and doing such a fantastic job every day, keeping us focused and on cue, the mayor of Vienna, wearing a shirt today, but if I understand correctly, something about pubic hairs or something. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. But anyway, Alex, how you doing this morning, sir?
Pretty good, sir. How are you?
Oh, splendid. And of course, I absolutely... Both of our key panel guys here, I love hearing their voices first thing in the morning. It's almost, but like when I'm in a down mood and I hear their voices, it's just like, oh wow, awesome. And so that will segue from one syrupy, awesome voice and such a great PMA guy, Alex, to our other syrupy voice, and I love hearing this voice. How you doing this morning, Thomas?
Nimble Wimble.
All right, and that pours right over my pancakes, all nice and yummy. Anyway, so does that mean you're doing well or you're doing poorly? I don't know. Anyway, how goes the battle for you, sir?
Always going well. I'm excited to talk about this Nimble Wimble thing. It seems to be what's driving this crypto market right now.
Cool beans, cool. All right, so when we do have Thomas on the show, he makes my life a lot easier because he has a nice little itinerary for us, and we go through the market methodically, step by step. Obviously, we've had a pretty big move here this morning in crypto, so I don't know whether we want to start there. But what were you thinking? Do we want to take a look at the broader market first, or what's the game plan today?
Well, I think there's a lot of negativity in Stockland. So let's start with some positive things because you seem to be pretty excited about crypto. So let's mix it up a bit this time and start off with crypto here.
Okay.
So that means we got to launch a chart. And I think well, first of all, we should probably start off with news. Let's do that first and then get into technical. So we're going to do this a little backwards, but I think it's because we've got some good energy coming out of crypto and we got to see what is driving all this. So the first thing here, this is more, I don't know, this is the article about the Intercontinental Exchange, which plans on launching Bakkt. And they came out with a report saying that they reported a record-breaking $1.3 billion in fourth quarter net revenues, which is up 14% year over year. And they're saying that this strong earnings growth, and I'm quoting this article here, coincides with delays in the launch of Bakkt, which is pending regulatory approval. So despite this thing not launching, the Intercontinental Exchange is still making a shitload of money. And now they're planning to launch this thing in the next couple of months here. And they're thinking that this thing will generate $20 to $25 million based on their run rate. And that's just in the first quarter. So they're planning on another record year, yada, yada, yada. But there was nothing in this article about when this thing plans on launching. Just it seemed like a press release, just kind of propping up ICE and like, oh, this is so good for this company, and we need to approve this thing. So BACT is still very much a part of their plans, and it seems like they're just trying to incept this idea back into the mainstream media's mind here that this thing's coming. So there's that cool piece, and then this was hitting the rags today about the. I guess I picked that word up from you now. There you go, the rags. Where did that come from? Do you mind taking a second to say where the rags statement came from?
Jeez, that's a good question. I don't know. Keep in mind, people used to actually get these things called newspapers. I don't know whether you guys have ever heard of those things before. But I think that's where the I think that's where the term comes from, right? Because you'd literally head to work, and on your way to work, there's be like newspaper stands, and you just grab the paper on your way, and then tuck it under your arm and head to the office. So I think, but I could be mistaken. But it's a good point. I don't know where that term comes from.
It makes sense. I mean, when newspapers get wet.
Yeah, I remember, and people used to use them as umbrellas. Anyway, all right. So yeah, what do you got here? SEC Commissioner Jackson thinks regulator will approve, and if anything, in a weird sort of way, I kind of think that maybe it would be nice if we didn't have all this, continuing drag on the market. But all right. So BACT is coming, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, BACT is coming, and there was evidently a leaked interview on Twitter from this SEC commissioner by the name of Robert J. Jackson Jr. He's the only Democratic commissioner, and he said that despite the recent rejections in the ETF applications last year, that he thinks this is going to change. And he goes, eventually, and I quote, "Do I think someone will satisfy the standards we've laid out here? I hope so, yes, and I think so." So, I mean, if that's anything to kind of take here, it just kind of means that what's been brewing hasn't quite met their expectations. We know that the Van Eck proposal was withdrawn into the government shutdown. And then lo and behold, once they decided to reopen the government, Van Eck said, well, here's our application again. The question
and here comes another government shutdown.
Yeah.
Great timing.
It's like cat and mouse here with this thing, but eventually... Yeah, eventually I think this will be approved, and obviously the commissioner thinks that as well. It's just whether or not these guys can dot their I's and cross their T's and get all their shit in order to satisfy the regulators, the so-called dinosaurs. Oh, we want to see what's going on in the crypto market. Everything's
no offense, but OK Casino and Mr. Hayes. I think it's probably in the public's best interest that they make these guys honest first. So, the CFTC, we talked about this the other day. I mean, they're just as much shysters as anybody in the crypto space, right? Mr. Hayes came from the futures industry.
Mm.
So, the SEC kind of want to say, they would prefer that the blatant manipulation be curtailed. And, I think we've said this before, a little bit of regulation is actually not a bad thing. So anyway, yeah, I'll take the positive side of this. And of course, if everybody wants to hate me for it, that's fine. And if you want to continue making fun of them and doing funny voices and stuff, go for it. It's totally fine. We'll do this back and forth. I'll be the good cop, you be the bad cop.
All right.
Or the other way around. Maybe it's the other way around in this space.
Can we wear sexy costumes while we do it too?
Just as long as it's not made out of pubic hair.
I was hoping that wasn't going to make it. It's way onto the airs here.
Okay, I'll go on mute because I'm just heading down. Brian. Remember, everybody here, I don't really like bear markets. They're really weighing. I prefer to be a bull. You probably noticed that I like the long story of the market. So you can kind of tell with this pop up here in prices, Brian's a little giddy this morning. So sorry, everybody.
It's nice to see. It's good to, it's fine. It's been a long time coming, right? We've been waiting
Yeah,
for
straight. This market's been a fucking pain in the ass.
oh show. So we'll move on from SEC. Yeah, I like that they're trying to protect the public. Great, just keep doing that. And when guys don't do when people violate sort of the rules, they should be harshly punished. Options manipulators, excuse me. Next story.
Yeah.
So Bitcoin Bull, I'm sorry,
Oh, poor
Tom.
old Tom. And I put a tweet out to this effect. God, this guy's just getting punked, eh?
He really is. It's like the market has decided to publicly embarrass him. And I mean, I don't know if it's bad timing or maybe this is his plan, right? I mean, maybe this is all along sort of the narrative that he wants to draw out and kind of be invited to CNBC for whatever other plans he has. But nonetheless, he came out and said that, well, the $25,000, excuse me, $25,000 milestone in December didn't quite get hit. So now we're going to set a target of 2270, and then he put a time frame on the damn thing again and said by Q1. So he's got another month and a half here. But he set his target at 2270. He's got a whole bunch of fun little charts here, but I found it really interesting that this guy set a target of 2270 when about a week ago, no, actually it was when I came out to Vancouver. And I don't know if you saw this, Brian, but I had shared this Bloomberg.
You just lost your screen share. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, don't worry, I got it. So this is a Goldman Sachs release from their securities division. And I think that I may have shown this before, but their target's 2294. Now, this came out 3 weeks ago. It's odd how the two of them are very similar. I can understand the technical analysis will sometimes paint similar targets depending on what tools you're using and what analysis. But come on, I think this is way too, it almost makes me feel like he's like a Goldman spy. But hey, I'm just making stuff up at this point. And I found it fascinating that the two of them had confluence on this level. And I'll talk about the technicals here a little bit as to why this kind of still makes sense, right? While it's odd that the timing came out that, yesterday he's like, oh, Bitcoin's not going to hit its target, it's going to go lower, and then the thing rallies. Fine, that's one thing, and the market will do crazy stuff. But before I do go into technicals, I want to just talk about this Mimblewimble thing. And this is predicated on Litecoin. So evidently over the last couple of days, Litecoin's been working on this project with a company called Beam. So they're a software developer that is kind of helping Litecoin or sort of trying to get Litecoin to implement this protocol called Mimblewimble, which has been named after a Harry Potter spell that stops people from spilling secrets and designed to improve privacy and scalability. So I think this is really interesting because this protocol itself is supposed to do just that. So it's sort of interesting that it's going to function sort of as a quasi-Monero privacy coin, but at the same time allow the Litecoin network to grow in ways that it was held back in the past. So this was really good news for Litecoin. Now, why? I can understand why Litecoin would rise. Now, it's interesting because we always say Litecoin's sort of our leading indicator and it's going to sort of forecast what's going to happen in the market. Well, Litecoin broke out, and so did Ethereum, and so did Bitcoin. And both of those two have been enjoying a dramatic, I don't know if I could call it dramatic, but a nice increase in price here. Now, as far as technicals are concerned, I'm going to jump in here into a chart. If anyone wants to know more about that Mimble thing and the protocols there, it's probably best if you look that up yourself because I'm not well versed in the technical jargon of the Mimblewimble curses of Harry Potter. But nonetheless, we'll keep looking here, bring up a Bitcoin chart. And the one thing that I do want to highlight, and I had this on my Finex chart, is this overlay that I had on the chart from 2014, 2015 to now. And people are probably like, oh, Thomas, don't do this to us. Well, I'm sorry. I got to show this. This is perfectly overlaid from what happened in the last bull run. You can see we're we're almost perfectly obeying these candles. And you can see here's the move downward. This is a weekly chart. This was our move up here back in 2014, 2015. This seems to be following the trend. Now, I think we kind of have to get a little careful, right? Brian's going to be, I guess we're playing good cop, bad cop. So I'm the bad cop. I'm going to play the bear because that's, seems to be fitting for my character here. But I think the message here that we have to take away is that, yeah, we're going to see periods of ups and downs, but this sideways action that happened after that sharp move up is sort of worrisome to me, but more like a reality. While I would love to see price break above this 4,300 level and move all the way up to 6,000, I don't know if that's going to happen. But if it does, I think that sort of breaks the correlation with what happened to 2014-15. And that's okay, right? These markets aren't going to follow that sort of exact roadmap as it did. As everyone says, markets don't often, follow the same exact trend, but they'll rhyme. They'll be very similar. We all know that. So how is this going to unfold? Just play your technicals, right? If you have your setup, don't necessarily pay attention to this, but also remember that it doesn't mean we're in a rip-roaring bull just because we've gone one day to the upside or even made a market structure bottom. The other thing that I think is crucial to understand here is we've got double divergence working. And I want to show this sort of two-panel layout so we can look at 2014, 2015, and also look at the same double divergence that's coming into the market right now. So I'm going to scroll out and I'm going to make this, here we go. So we've got 2014, 15 on the left. And you can see here on the MACD is my panel just below the price action. You can see you have one divergence, but the market continued to go lower. And then you have two divergences. So this is your double divergence sort of that confirmed here. And
yeah, like I see a lot, and there was somebody in the lounge yesterday talking about this. If you need to take the time to watch, even in the library, we have videos on MACD and on RSI. So if you're a basic site member, please watch those. If you're in the school, total candy store level 1, it's critical that we understand the difference between potential divergence and confirmed divergence. And I'm seeing a little sloppiness on the chart about people calling divergence, but it's actually just a potential divergence that hadn't been confirmed yet. So I think I can almost interpret where Thomas is going with this. Is this divergence that we have in Bitcoin yet? Is it confirmed yet? And I don't know. Is that sort of where you're going with this?
Yeah, it is. And the other thing that I'm going with this also is that despite the fact that we had confirmation of this divergence, we did just go sideways, right? We didn't really have that market structure bottom to work with for a real setup until, Christ, almost like 7 months later. Now, I'm not saying this is going to do the same thing, but you just have to keep that in mind that even though you have this coiling MACD and you have this, again, potential divergence here, which I'm going to show, this is now. The right panel is our now MACD. There's no confirmation here on this double divergence yet. And just as Brian was saying that people are getting a little sloppy, I'm going to draw it out for you as clear as day. Here's the W. Here's the second bottom part. We need to break above the neckline. And the neckline, I'm going to draw a line for you. It's very simple. We got to break above this area right here. If we don't break above this bar here on the MACD, you ain't got no divergence. You can't do anything. It's just not in play. And therefore, if you're playing your Altangos, you're playing other setups that include a divergence, it's not there. And then, of course, as I've been saying before, even if this does confirm and you do not get market structure or a third reason, the other problem is that this weekly bull is still not there as far as a trade setup. And this could just go sideways for another 6 to 7 months. This is cool stuff, what we're seeing today. And I hate to be the guy that burst the bubble, but I wanted to get it out of the way before Brian gave all of the good news. So bad news out of the way,
Yeah,
good news time.
kind of like what you see on my chart here, and I've been squawking about this on this stock market short setup. It's the exact same logic, and this is where a lot of people fail in this, is that setups take a long time to develop. So yeah, you might get trade location, but that's not 3 reasons. And then you got to wait for the divergence to confirm. And I even put this tweet out. It's like, this is really cool to watch this sort of slowly set up. I don't think a stock market short has developed yet. We've got location, and actually we're coming out of location, which is a little disturbing. Now we have the divergence. So now we can actually go into the process of hunting structure. This might take a fucking month to M out here. Totally possible. And just like Thomas is saying here, it's critical with this trading. I found, like location, just wait, let the market to come into an acceptable trade level, then wait for the divergence, and then wait for your structure. So really what we're talking about here is you just got to be super, super patient. And, the worst part about all this, well, not worst part, but, look at Thomas's moving averages on his screen, right? And this is one reason why we really like to use, like I think I have this screen that I like to follow. Until these moving averages actually turn back bull, like Tron is doing here, technically this is still a bear market. Nothing has really changed here. And usually it takes like a period, and you can see on the left-hand panel of Thomas's screen there, you can see that it takes a good while for these moving averages to stop being bear and actually turn back up and start being bull again. So I'm not necessarily going to pound the table long, and for heaven's sakes, people, please, for God's sakes, do not chase the market. In fact, I saw somebody in the lounge this morning going, oh man, this is taking the patient, the discipline, don't chase this, but I got to put the mouse down, don't chase this. And I have to agree, for heaven's sakes, do not chase in here. Because, just like that fund strength guy, the market's actually going to really fuck with people here. Everybody's going to turn bull, and I wouldn't be surprised if we have to come right back down and test these lows again. And as you can see on my screen, we had Tron turn up here, so that's encouraging. But the rest of the kids, they're still in the process of, can we break the bear? We're still in the bear. Can we break the bear? The only other thing I would add is that this is sort of where the traders shine. The trend, I think, is still down. But, the guys who had the balls to step in and just simply buy the 78.6 harmonic. And now look at this goddamn W that came in right off of that. Colleen, you're doing Introduction to Technical Analysis. Can you see this W right here? I mean, look at that. It's poetry. And it's right off that 78.6 fib, which you'll be doing in a while. You'll be doing fibs in a while. But, for the traders, keep in mind, this is a lower time frame. I think there was a trade. And then, of course, this is the market that really caught my attention. So, again, lower time frames. We're talking traders here. Can you see this W develop? And then this little one, and then this one. And I thought it was fascinating as we were sort of working our way through here, that the sentiment, and guys, this is really great because I was curious as to, how this space was going to build out. And what I've kind of noticed, I gave a shout out to this gentleman a while ago, a week or two ago, about how he was, he was a pretty smart guy, and our institutional trader, blah 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 kind of stuff. And yet the irony of it all, he was injecting massive amounts of opinion into this piece last night. I thought it was fascinating. Somebody asked him, "So, what do you think of Litecoin? What do you?" And he's like, "Oh, this is a train wreck. It looks horrible. This is terrible. It's awful." And it just goes to show, try not to fucking trade opinions, guys, because half of the time our opinions are completely wrong, and just try and focus on setups. And you just never know in this crazy game, and this is why I really want you guys defining what are your reasons for acting and then just simply following your plan, because you just don't know. This could have been stopped out or it could have run the way that it has. You just don't know. So anyway, I'm not going to sit here and go, all right, everything's rosy, peaches and cream. We go straight up from here. You're guaranteed to make money. That's nonsense. And that's opinion, right? If anything, what we have to do now is just wait for our setups to develop. If you trade W's, well, then, like a Thomas's screen there, you can start to see the W's coming in here. You could probably, that's a weekly chart you have on there. You might even be able to throw up like a daily chart and then start doing fibs off of whatever the counter trend rally peak is going to be here. And if you do want to go and buy some Litecoin, you got to start working your bids off of reload zones and all that kind of fun stuff. Nothing really changes with what we do here, but all right. I don't know. I think I probably said about 4 or 5 different things in there. I don't know. I hope that helps you guys, but continue on, sir. You're doing such a great job here today. Please, I'll go on mute again.
So are you. You don't have to ever do that. Just it's friendly discussion. So I have this Litecoin thing here on my chart, weekly chart. The discussion that we just had about Litecoin leading the market, I think, is interesting to note. We just showed that Bitcoin weekly chart with the potential double divergence that hadn't confirmed yet. We have this Litecoin double divergence, which interestingly has confirmed here. This actually confirmed last week, so we missed this, or I missed this rather, this confirmation here on the weekly. I was just paying attention to the daily, but this thing's in play. Now we also have the potential for a market structure bottom that won't confirm until next week. So this is looking really interesting. You're seeing
on Sunday. That's when this candle will finish, right?
Yes. So I wait for a full candle body close above the neckline. So we're not going to get that this week.
So that might be Sunday. And then what would you want to see, like one tick higher than this candle's peak to sort of confirm that thing's really bottomed?
Well, here's the thing. When it comes to lower time frames and the way that I've sort of taught my students is that what happens generally after you've broken out from this market structure bottom is you get kind of a quick uptick like that, and then you get sort of a recheck of the neckline, and then it kind of rallies back and up. Now that's in an ideal world, right? And these aren't the best ghost candles, but nonetheless, you kind of get the idea. So I'd be working.
I still haven't figured out that tool yet. Yeah, but it's kind of fun to play with it, eh?
It is nice.
And in fact, I kind of like that thinking, right? Because you can see those 2 weekly candles, the candle body close. I guess that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like 5 and 6 weeks ago. Those candle body close levels, that's going to be a really important level for traders going forward. So if we can close out this week here, then my hunch is, a check of that breakout. And, I think that's like our shark pattern. I don't know. We've got Kavarkinator here. And I know, Joshua, you like to follow the shark. Where, if you get a big pump up in price, if you draw your fibs, and then you often notice that 78.6 lines up with that original market structure breakout level really well. So maybe that, if anything, that'd be kind of a cool experiment. Let's see if I can do that on my chart real quick here. This is this happens to be the Trex OKCoin. But if I go to like a weekly chart, so there is that double bottom that's trying to form. For us to do sort of and this isn't really a very good chart. Maybe let's see if I can find a better one. LTC, USD. Probably like Phoenix or something that's got a forever chart. There we go. Oh, interesting. There's that AB equals CD already on here. But what I'm kind of thinking right now is there is that breakout level. And then we're going to take our fib and we're going to say, well, if this is a shark, then what does that sort of imply as sort of a potential top here in the short term? Oh, look at that! How I eyeballed that. Oh, nice. So if we think shark, then 70, and actually that's interesting because you notice there's going to be a big notch there, and also to notice the top of value right here. So that would actually imply, and actually I like this too because $100, big fat round number. And what do you think the odds are? Maybe if we just even go off of this recent peak, that's like a 38.2. So if we go boom and 38.2, okay, well, let's see. What would that be working off of? Maybe something. Oh, there we go. Something like that. So let's keep that, it makes sense too. I like the idea of big fat round numbers. Oh, I also like the idea of the market coming back against previous horizontal support and resistance. So actually I kind of like that. 38.2 horizontal support and resistance. Excuse me. Oh, sorry, guys. And then a pullback to set up the shark setup off of the original double bottom level would be back to $40 here. So if anything, I know you're like, holy Jesus, that kind of rally. I don't know what the fuck's going to happen here, but I'm going to keep this on the screen. Let's see how this develops over the next month or two. And then also, too, remember, guys, then this should be a really good lesson for all the new people to crypto. We do actually have a fundamental event coming up here for Litecoin in the next 6 months. And just like in 2015, Litecoin bottomed in the middle of the summer and then started its pump. And to be honest with you guys, I really wouldn't be surprised if, as we're heading into that Litecoin halving event, we start hearing about Chinese Ponzi schemes pumping up the price ahead of that event, and the very typical sort of nature of this crypto market. Yeah, okay. So in the short term, you can see on Thomas's screen, he started, and that's basically my bot target there is going to smack up against the 200 period moving average. If anybody can figure out what the hell is going on with these damn shorts on Phoenix, I'd greatly appreciate the input. We got a pretty big community, so somebody hopefully can figure out this logic. I don't know what the heck is going on here, but clearly somebody's got their nuts caught in the ringer here.
Ouch. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
I felt that one
for you. How do you like them apples, Colleen? Sorry, didn't mean to be too blunt there. Okay, Brian, shut up. Thomas, talk. Please go.
Yeah, I mean, Brian pretty much gave us the levels here on Litecoin. I think that I have nothing else to put forth other than great job breaking that down. I'm also very curious as to what's going on here. If these shorts continue to pile in, you can almost bet your balls that this thing's going to continue moving higher to squeeze those short positions as they continue.
I do like that target you've painted there, though, and $50 too is also a pretty big fat round psychological number. And notice all those previous lows are going to basically be right up in there. And actually, if you do watch that guy that I was speaking about just earlier there, this guy's video, he actually talks a lot about volume profile and how it lines up with previous horizontal support and resistance. A really good lesson for everybody here. Oh no, just keep zoomed in there. That was really good. Because I think we're sharing your screen, where we accepted above one node, and if we can accept above that node, and do you notice how easily price zipped up here? Because this is just a big vacuum on the profile, and the odds are, where are we going to stop? That next node. In essence, yeah. Now we do have Colleen here, so we better keep this G-rated. But in years gone by, I would make reference to certain anatomical images. Thank you, ma'am, for being understanding with us, silly boys. But the point here is that we used to call this a muak, right? And you put like the little heart shape right in the profile there. That this area of the profile needs attention. and where are we likely to see the market stall. Notice how this higher node just so happens to be right up against that reload zone of Thomas's. So on the daily chart, nice short-term picture. I think actually Thomas is painting a really simple sort of path for us to take here, heading up into that reload zone. In fact, geez, you got the volume profile node, you got the reload zone, you got the 200-day SMA, and you got the AB equals CD. So put it all together, and I think it just makes common sense why I think the odds are, and of course the big fat round number at $50. So, all right. Wow. Brian, shut up. Jeez. Go ahead, Thomas.
So Bobo's saying that maybe I should weigh the LTC BTC shorts and the LTC USD shorts together. I think that's a good idea. I wonder if I can do that right now without screwing up this whole thing. So inputs, I'm using LTC USD short. So what would I do? Would I divide, or let me see what
you got, that's LTC USD. I didn't know we could go LTC BTC shorts. I didn't know that.
Let's see what those look like.
Yeah, maybe I'm doing...
Look at that. Totally different picture. Now let's see what the longs look like in BTC.
So we were comparing it versus US dollars. And now this is comparing it versus Bitcoins?
Yeah, so in Bitcoins, the shorts were super high already compared to longs. So maybe he's right. So we should take sort of this weighted average of shorts and longs. That's really interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good conversation, Bobo. Thank you for mentioning that. Cool.
Huh. All right. So whoever's shorting this thing in terms of US dollars, they're getting crushed here. And whoever was shorting in terms of Bitcoin, they're taking their shorts off. So I guess we need some time to wrap our heads around how that's potentially going to evolve here.
Yeah.
But
okay.
So another thing I wanted to just touch on, and I hate talking about this damn thing, but Ripple looked really bottomy to me over the last couple of days. I mean, this thing's kind of come back into a reload zone, but not quite the trade you're looking for. You can see that you've got a div working. It's not the nicest div, but it's there. But I think this thing's getting ready for a move as well. That's the daily.
That's a W. And, this is the cool part about technical analysis. I mean, you can't argue that W. That W is there, whether you like it or not. So, yeah, if that W does confirm, I think Cripple's bottomed here too.
Yeah, so it's interesting because there's a news article about this, and I don't know if this is what drove price action up today, but this is about Abra, however you pronounce it. But they've been around in the space for a while. They offer this sort of cell phone or this app where you can kind of exchange your cryptocurrencies on your phone. They were kind of one of the first few to do that like a year ago. Now there's tons of other products like it. But what they've done to be a little different here is that they've added support to allow you to use Ripple to buy and sell stocks. Now, I think there's one other company that allows you to do that with crypto. And there's been people in the community who have been using that. I don't know why this would toss Ripple's price higher, but it is, something to note that potentially someone who's got a big bag of Ripple who wants to get into stocks, now they've got a reason. But I mean, technically speaking, I was thinking about this when I woke up this morning. It was like the weirdest thing. I'm like, wow. I looked at a chart of Ripple yesterday. I was like, I really need to know where this is going. And I pulled it up this morning. This thing just popped up with the rest of the market. So I'm kind of wondering if this is a play here. I don't like this sort of area. It kind of limits the upside in comparison to Litecoin. Litecoin looks like a better trade to me. And then, of course, fundamentally, I mean, we've been asking this since before but when I first started getting into crypto is what's a Ripple worth? What the hell is it? How do you denominate its value and determine what this thing's inherent price should be at? And I think that's a problem that this whole space has kind of been trying to figure out. For a while, everyone's like, oh, Ripple's going to be the next Swift processor. And then Swift was like, nah, we'll go with R3. And Ripple's like, oh, but what about us? So that kind of left it behind. And I think that's why this thing declined into that news. But interestingly, we did not lose a 28.5-cent low. So, I mean, if this does confirm that W, sure, you've got a nice setup, but I don't really like buying this thing at that level because your upside isn't really that great. I mean, you're talking, what, 20% to a mountain man level. I mean, for some that could be great, and I'm sure on leverage it would be nice, but I'm not sure if we get that high. I mean, this looks like a brick wall to me, but it's anyone's guess. If you want to play that, that's perfectly fine. But this chart just, I don't know, keeps scaring me away. So that's Ripple. We haven't talked about Ethereum, so we should probably mention that before we go. Now, I'm going
to look at that later on, and also this one too. And I saw a message from Leanne this morning. I'm seeing a bunch of Leanne James trendline breakout setups coming in here. So this is it's kind of cool that we're seeing that too. All right, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt, but I'm gonna just see if I can throw that together for you guys.
What, for the Ripple or
yeah, that cripple chart. I was just actually just filling my coffee cup up listening to you, and I noticed we're getting a lot of these trendline breakouts.
See, I don't like this though. Do you like this? This area here looks to me like a brick wall to the upside.
Well, the market structure hasn't confirmed, right? So just draw your trend line off of that peak from mid-December there, off of the next peak there, I guess early January. And I think that the third one just came in there. So the first market structure signal on the other side of the trend line is your trade signal. So that hasn't fired yet. But I just see a lot. Yeah, look at that, eh? So we've got the trend line break. If anything, what you really want is you want the market just to settle down here and just paint a nice little W, and that gives you your trade signal. I love that Leanne James setup, man. It's so fucking sick. And actually, it used to be RJ's. You remember that? And it was a setup that one of our original students from 2014 actually absolutely loved. And I think he actually lives in Thailand. So Julian, if you are watching this later on, you should reach out to Ron Damon. And I don't know if do we have anybody? Yeah. Do we have anybody that was even Thomas? Do you remember Nico?
Yeah, I do. I think it wasn't he TA for the next level after, or the course after that.
I don't think so. He actually ended up he actually ended up panic selling his Bitcoins at $150 that first dump. Oops. Which is really sad. But nonetheless, he learned TA, and he learned how to manage his emotions and manage his money appropriately. And the next cycle, he made a lot of money. But he lives in Thailand, so those people that are hanging out with Julian in Thailand, we should probably hook up with Ron because he's a super, super nice guy. Anyway, all right, so I didn't mean to distract you there. What was the idea that you were looking at following? Oh yeah, Ethereum. What did you want to talk about on Ethereum here?
So what is it? The last week we've kind of been rounding the top or the bottom, or trying to put in a top or a bottom into this market.
You remember the other day we talked about this though? Remember you got stopped out and you were kind of choked and stuff like that. It was totally fine. And I totally appreciate your candor about that. That was really, really good quality stuff. But remember we had sort of said that maybe might have been a little bit of an anecdote about market state here. And look at this fucking rally, eh? Sure glad you're not still short, eh? Oh boy, you could lose your house on that move like this.
They would steal my phone lines on the margin call.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is a nice market structure bottom that is confirming here. Interestingly, though, this peak here, this candle wick, has sort of stalled out, sort of in a reload zone, right in between 116 and 120 bucks, which makes sense. So, I mean, that's kind of cool, though, like what we're seeing here. And it makes sense.
Now do a fib off of this recent high back against those lows. And that, if you are interested in buying Ethereum here, that's where you got to be hunting. Don't fucking go and chase this up top here. You might just be walking into a trap.
And I guess it's worth mentioning that, even it's just so easy to want to get sucked into buying this thing. I mean, when I saw this thing climbing up, I was like, oh shit, I got to go get my private keys and get all my stuff onto the exchange and start trading. I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. I've missed the damn trade. And it's just like the urge. It's like it's really, I want to say it's like an addiction where you're just like, I need to do it. And you have to fight it. It's like this inherent instinct where you're FOMOing, and you just like that, like you just said about the guy in the lounge, he had to put his mouse down. That's what it feels like. I mean, it's really a strong urge to want to go in and try to jump into this market, and to be able to curtail that instinct and that sort of human urge to go into this is so hard to fight. But if you can get to that point, be like, no, this is normal. This is how everyone else is reacting, but it's the wrong way of reacting. And instead, I'm going to draw my fibs, and I'm going to see that Mountain Man at $106.50 corresponds quite nicely to this neckline breakout.
Yeah.
And I would have a perfect trade if I just wait, because what am I capturing on the upside from $116? I don't know if I'm capturing anything at this point, because you got this big wick. Is this going to make new highs at this point? I mean, what day of the week is it? It's Friday. We're going into weekend trading. So is it really in your best interest to be setting yourself up into a trade into weekend trading when arguably all of the desks are like, ah, fuck, we missed the move. We're going on vacation this weekend. We're going to come back. That's when we're going to set the market up into the weekend. We're going to fuck everyone over who went long. We're going to bring the market straight back down. And this is when your Tuesday, Wednesday kill zones are crucial. Now, if we can get back down into this area, they're definitely going to set a few traps going forward in the next couple of days. And hell, I mean, just look at the volume profile. We're getting so much confluence here as to where this market, I mean, just zooming out, there's a huge notch here at $107, $106. So
this is almost the exact opposite with what we just did on the other idea, but sort of same logic. You know, don't chase, draw your fibs, reload zones, look over on the profile. Are there any notches, anything in particular that might justify a pullback? Can you find market structure? Brian loves his candle body lows and candle body highs for trade location. And then, you know, the pièce de résistance. I absolutely love Tuesday, Wednesday kill zones, because I think they put a bottom in this market through Tuesday, Wednesday kill zone this week, didn't they?
I guess it looks like they did.
You know, what day is today? Today's Friday, Thursday, Wednesday. That's basically your dip right against those lows was Wednesday, eh?
Yeah, that was the trade.
Guys, I mean, write this shit down. If you haven't heard this before, Colleen, I sure hope you have it. And actually, maybe it should just be a nice little quiz for everybody. What should we have in front of us as Brian and Thomas, and you know, whether it's Alex or Grim or Julian or whoever is presenting? Is there something that you should have in front of you? And Bobo, you just minus 1 point for that comment. Look at the Brits. The Brits are such smart asses.
Beer.
Jamie, vodka. Fuck.
It is almost 6 o'clock for them. So
okay. Yeah, and I know it's late in the day for you Europeans. I apologize. And it's Miller time for you, I suppose. But yeah, seriously, you got to have your journals in front of this, because we're like Thomas and I are constantly throwing these little tidbits out. Write down markets 80% of the time pivot through the Tuesday, Wednesday London kill zone. It's just that simple. And here is just yet another example. Wednesday kill zone, they totally pivoted this market.
Yeah, great observation. They're taking profits today. If
that's right. And think about it too, right? The the UK boys or whatever pump it up right into their close, and Jamie now is going and buying drinks for everybody at the bars. Now the profits that they made on that pivot, they're going and partying and excuse my French, Colleen, but we always used to say, you know, those girls, they cost money. You got to have that money for the weekend. So we end up closing out positions heading into Friday afternoon so that they can pay the bills. So, okay, I'll go back on mute. My apologies. Continue on, sir.
I mean, we've covered our Bitcoin, we've covered our Litecoin, we've covered Ethereum, we've covered Ripple. I mean, what about, do you want to do alt? Should we just do a crypto show for the rest of the day, or should we move into stocks?
Yeah, well, yeah, we did this kind of backwards today. I suppose we could just do a quick overview of what's going on in the stock market and then send these people on their way. In a weird sort of way, and actually this kind of reminds me of a chart that I've been watching lately. I honestly think that there's a high correlation between the US dollar index and Bitcoin. So I don't know. I am seeing a bottom coming in on US dollar index. It actually did tick up and confirm a double bottom breakout here. Now it's just sort of sitting there, and this is a horrible trade location, but that's a W any way you shake it. So I find this fascinating what's going on with the US dollar right now. Comments?
Me too. I think that the dollar does need to definitively break out from this area if it wants to be considered a bull. I think, again, this is all based on the whole confusion that happened last week from Fed Powell and what's going to happen here with the dollar. I think that the reason why the dollar is rallying is sort of what you've gone over earlier in the week, which is that, you know, the US dollar just looks like the shiniest turd on the block right now, and everything else looks worse than that. So that's where money's flowing right now. And until
Colleen, I'd write this down. Often it's not really how good your asset is, it's whose poop stinks the least. So excellent point there, sir. Excellent point. I don't necessarily think the United States and all that is so great. It's just you go and look at what's going on in Europe right now, and you're just like, oh my God, can I really take the chance? And remember, we've talked about this recently. The German bond market is just going crazy. And if the German bond market is going crazy, that can't be like a good sign for growth. That's got to mean, look at these goddamn German bonds. Look at that. I mean, that's what I call a bull market. Rawr! Right? So how on earth can you justify talking about growth in Europe when you got the bond market looking like that? That, to me, screams recession. I mean, I don't necessarily, I mean, I'm not, this is a tough one because really, I think as Thomas just said there, this isn't really so much that rah USA, they're so great. It's just that, my God, where do we put our money in this world? Do we take the chance of having it in Europe right now? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a big issue. And yeah,
What's
I mean,
is you notice that the gold just doesn't want to break here, right? Maybe you could pull up your gold chart and see if we get any correlation. Look at that, eh? And actually, Grim was even saying earlier, like if you drill down to like say a 4-hour chart or something like that, Grim's actually hunting longs in here, which makes sense. You know, I mean, if this thing's going to bot up, then away you go. So look at that MACD divergence, motherfucker.
Yeah, it's there. I don't know what's going to be a next week sort of setup, and whatever the news comes out with next week will sort of dictate, or whatever tail wags the dog, so to speak.
Jamie, what's the big fundamentals coming up on the docket next week? I know Jamie's doing really good at following all the fundamental data points. Do we have anything really earth-shattering that might rock the market FA-wise?
Isn't Trump's meeting with the Koreans, isn't he?
Oh, God, he's going to like Vietnam or something like that, isn't he?
Yeah, he's not meeting with president of China until, what, March? And then there's the Korean summit, as Jamie said.
And of course, we might head into another U.S. government shutdown here next week too, right? Is that coming down the pike?
Yeah, what is that, next week or the week after?
Yeah. So I find this gold market fascinating. You know, always a student of the market. 30 years into this, guys, Brian's still just as much of a student of the market as all of you guys are. But it was interesting that Grim's, I mean, me personally, I can't hunt longs here. This is giving me vertigo. But I can understand, you know, totally unbiased, no opinion, just trade the setups, guys. They're still trading the long side of this market. So, how's your silver looking? And actually, you should, if anything, pull up a VIX chart and show the good people how you kick that market's ass.
Yeah, this is the VIX chart. So I bought, what, 2 days, 3 days ago, I bought, I think it might have been this day or this day. No, I bought this preceding candle. I didn't get in on this. But interestingly, I bought calls, and I think I bought myself until July. So I have plenty of time on these things. VIX, yeah, I bought the July 17th, 2019 calls, the $20 calls, and I paid $1.85 for them. And interestingly, even though the price was declining the next 2 days after I bought the position, the underlying call price didn't decline below $1.80. So, and the other problem here is, I bought myself lots of time. So this isn't going to move, say, as quickly as a near dated call. But nonetheless, my target is $20. You can see 50% is $26.02. So I have a pretty decent position if it actually ended up going there. You can see there's some gaps to the upside even up here, but I think we need to at least retest this neckline of this market structure fail here on the VIX before we decide to move any higher. Now, it is interesting that yesterday and today, the VIX really hasn't broke above that neckline despite a market that's kind of declining and seems a bit heavy. But taking into account Brian's comments about the S&P not having a market structure top, I'm wondering if there's a little bit more wash that needs to happen here on VIX and, of course, on S&P to give us that nice top that brings us lower. This is in a reload zone, depending on where you're drawing your fibs. It's a reload zone pretty much everywhere. I think we've got divergence, which for me has not quite confirmed, right? You do have a confirmation from the traditional method of looking at MACD, but I wait for the MACD to drip below the zero line. And we're not there yet. So in order for that to come in, I think we've got a couple more days of this sort of weird sideways stuff setting itself up into next week. And I'm seeing that reflected in the underlying options pricing on many of my positions where they don't seem to be taking off relative to the actual price action that you're seeing on the stocks themselves. So I think to me, that means that there's more work to do before this thing can actually go to the downside. And that's just my observation. But as far as the VIX is concerned and me picking up my calls, I placed bids just kind of coinciding with this gap down here. And it seems to be doing okay for now. But the problem is if we do lose these lows, you've got another gap way down here. And I think in order for us to get to that point, we've got a lot of cleaning up to do in the face of this bull divergence, which also, interestingly, has not confirmed either. So it's like the S&P and VIX are opposite or inverse copies of each other here, waiting for that confirmation on both sides before we can kind of get direction.
Yeah, I like that thinking. Yeah, very good stuff, sir. We're in trade location. Your interpretation of divergence, I actually like that. Sort of confirm your divergence by checking out the VIX to see whether it's in, if you're thinking about a bear divergence in stocks, do we have a bull divergence in VIX? So I kind of like that thinking. And it doesn't look like, to me, we're just quite ready to shit the bed here yet. Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised. And this is such a good lesson because if you can actually minimize that MACD chart again, for the good people, or I suppose I can throw it on here.
Oh, you want the MACD as the large part of the
MACD, screen? Yeah, maximize that pane. So if you could take your mouse and your little drawing tool, the paintbrush kind of thing. I would do a horizontal line off of there, and then I would also do another horizontal line off of this recent low that was just pivoted. So yeah, right there. Right there. So, I need, if you can, well, not there, but against the low of the MACD. Yeah, there you go. So if you can just sort of put on your artistic cap here, this could either W out, which confirms the MACD divergence, and away we go. Or, and this is where it gets a little screwy. Oh, there you go. if we cannot get through the high, well, okay, so that would be sort of the bull divergence comes in. Woohoo, away we go. But if we can't get through that high, I need for you guys to be able to see that if we actually go back through that low, this actually makes a new M. So this could break either way. And this is why it's so important to understand the difference between potential and confirmed. You don't know whether this thing's actually going to W out. And I've seen lots of times where that W doesn't confirm and we actually roll over and go through that low and it's a new goddamn M. You know, like, back on your screen there, from about August 16th and that area there. So we didn't go to new highs. In fact, we actually M'd out. So it does happen, right? So, you know, if anything, really good sort of little mini tutorial here on why it's so important for us to wait for that actual W to actually confirm before assuming that this is a bull divergence, because it might just M out here.
Yeah. Now, the problem here with trading VIX is this thing is nutso. I have never been stopped out of so many positions. Sorry, not stopped out, but prevented from being able to enter a position on any name other than the VIX. This thing is really nutso. And look at the top here. This is a V top, right? And there's no denying that. Here's your first signal for a market structure top that came in way down here. Were they trying to fish for people to shoot off shorts here and then rally the market off and run their stops? I don't know. But are we going to get a nice market structure bottom in price? I think that's hard to say because VIX is so crazy. It wouldn't surprise me if we just kind of go sideways and then boom, you know, you see a sharp sell off in the market and then the VIX just rockets higher. And that's just typical of this product. And this is, I mean, for me, this thing is way more advanced than I've ever seen. This thing is just a completely different monster than any other product I've ever traded. So if you are thinking of trading it, you're crazy.
We've talked about this, and actually there was even a market maker that was recently fined $1.5 million by the SEC, or no, by the CBOE themselves, about the blatant manipulation of the VIX. You know, Thomas has talked to you guys lots in the past about how these guys, it's almost shocking how manipulated this thing is. I wouldn't really recommend probably 95% of our community to try and trade the VIX because you're just asking for trouble. Thomas has a penchant for self-mutilation. Okay, fine.
It's true. There's no denying it. It certainly seems like that.
And I'm sure it makes great conversation, at his group conversations. You know, I would imagine most of those when you talked at that Macro Voices conference about trading the VIX, what did they kind of talk to you about? Were they enthusiastic of trading the VIX?
I quote, "I never trade the VIX," is what I got. Never do I touch that. There are so many other ways of playing volatility that I don't need to touch the VIX, is what they said, because it's too crazy.
It's extremely dangerous. But nonetheless, I love, Thomas jumps in full bore. And he's doing well because he's stunningly patient and stunningly disciplined. And that's great. All of you guys, use guys like Grim, use guys like Thomas as role models, because these guys are just absolutely fantastic, demonstrators of patience and discipline. But this is a very, very difficult product to trade. So just be forewarned. Here, I'm just going to throw on the chart, Alex, if you could just throw on, just to illustrate what I was talking about there. And actually, it's interesting. Oh, I've got, because are you using the default MACD settings? I use a slightly modified settings on my MACD, but that's okay. Let's see what the defaults are saying. Well, it's not interesting. So looking at the daily VIX, I actually do get a bit of a W here. Isn't that interesting why my VIX chart looks different than yours?
Are you using close? Yeah, you are.
All right. Well, we'll look at that later. No big deal. We don't have to stumble on that now. Okay, so it is past the top of the hour. I don't know whether there's anything in particular stock market land that we really need to cover, other than I'm just going to simply say really, really good example of a Mountain Man SmackDown here. I do find it interesting, too, on this SmackDown. They've actually brought it back below this trend line. And kind of like what I showed you on that Litecoin chart earlier, I'm thinking that we're sort of stuck in this trading range for the time being, which is pretty wide, right? And I find it interesting that there are some really juicy price gaps down here. So, and actually we did this yesterday. Let's see if anybody can answer this question. What do we call that candle right there? Is there any sort of name that we give this kind of candle? I think, didn't we cover this yesterday? Very good. Ooh, even Colleen's popped in here. Right. So, clearly the market ran into just a big old whack of selling pressure there and has backed off. Obviously, we still have quite, about 3 hours to go in the North American session. Maybe we get some sort of, white knight rally here. But if we close here, my hunch is next week is actually going to paint what do we call this pattern. Let's see if anybody will finish off Brian's rant with this kind of idea. And I'll help you out. I'll go dun 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 dun. Yeah, an empire or a fractal top. So I wouldn't be surprised if next week's going to be a little bit challenging for the stock market. We'll see how this goes. But maybe we empire out here and then we have to sort of keep cascading our way down. You said Stephen posted a beautiful chart on the SQQQs. Is that in the lounge right now or was that from earlier this morning, Bobo? Because I know Stephen is just an absolute monster with his harmonics. It's just so beautiful. All right. So, and if anything, we kind of wanted to get Stephen on the show sometime next week to do a presentation for you. So, Bobo, if you could remind me to ask him to just show us that SQQQ chart when he's on, I'd appreciate it. Oh, you've got it here? Let's see what he's got. Boom. Oh, wow. Oh, isn't that interesting? So this is Bobo's chart as Stephen shared with us, coming right back down against the bottom end of the range. I guess is this he hasn't labeled what kind of setup this is. It almost looks like maybe no, it's not a shark, but interesting how we've come down. Did he a bat? Yeah, a bullish bat. Interesting. That Stephen guy, man, he's one hell of a good trader. Again, super patient, super disciplined. Every single time you talk to Stephen, always exactly the same tone. Doesn't get overly excited, doesn't get overly depressed. Just slow and steady wins the race. It's great working with you guys. And use these people as role models for all of you, right? I think I even put a tweet out. We're now at the point, our community here, where we have enough educated traders that just listen to the community. You don't even have to really necessarily listen to Brian. Just listen to the community. Try and hear that overall message, because I think we basically espouse the same message. Just day in, day out, just come to work. We're doing our job. Don't take any sort of personal insult by the market. Sometimes you get stopped out. You're never going to be right 100% of the time. Get used to it. But this shit works more than 60% of the time. And that's the key for this. So, okay, I think that's about all I want to say. I think I was maybe I'll do it on the broiler chicken show or not this weekend. I'm pretty active in the stock market right now, not taking too many crypto setups. I've been doing like little old lady nibbles in crypto. But I was pleased to see, who knows, maybe all this stuff is broken down. Yeah. Oh, look at that motherfucker. Goddamn son of a bitch. So we were joking on the site yesterday. Check out this options trade. And this is what I would like to see with regard to crypto as we move forward is are there companies that can use, yeah, I know, a fucker's running here. Can they use blockchain to become more efficient, right? And all these kind of conversations. And here was a crazy idea. Look at this. This is nuts, right? This option is sitting at basically 50 to 75 cents. That was the other day right in here, but you can see it's breaking out now. So I'm sure the options are a hell of a lot more now. But, you know, at the 50% rule of this range, this option will only be worth $21.75. And it was trading at 50 fucking cents. I mean, it's almost laughable, these moves in the stock market. I don't know where this thing's going to go, but hopefully everybody can see the very W-y nature in price action. And it's interesting, too. You can see the buyers are starting to come in here. This is one I didn't get in. I probably should have, would have, could have, should have. Oh, DPW, Jamie stock. So these guys are talking about rolling their stock back. Can you see the W coming in here, Colleen? I don't know whether you can see that. Can you see the W trying to form here? There we go, down, up. Actually, and it looks like that is our floor there. Down, came right back against these lows, and now, hello, W. I don't know. If I change this to a line chart, you probably can see a little better. Can you see that W there? You know, so if anything, now we can start hunting long setups on these names again. Yay. And then finally, I think one that I did get in, but I don't know how it's doing here this morning. Where the hell is it? Yeah, I kind of like Mr. Draper's stock. Hasn't W'd yet, but you can see the base that's trying to form. They took it all the way up to a 150, 160 this morning. But looking very positive. And if I'm really lucky and we get a nice little pop up into here, maybe I can get off a sell half on a double and get myself some free stock. So it looks like blockchain stocks are confirming what we're seeing out of Bitcoin. So that's encouraging. Okay, I think I'm done my rants for the day. I don't know whether there's anything else really I wanted to chat with you guys about. But what do you think, Thomas? Shall we? Are you done? He's got the DPW chart on there. Geez, maybe I should take a look at that. You are muted, so I don't know whether you realize you're muted or not.
Yeah, there's some shady stuff going on behind the scenes with their other company and owing money. So I don't know. I've kind of stayed away
from DPW here.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, I think they were trying to pass a resolution to roll the stock back, eh? So,
yeah, but the SEC came out and said that they were technically defaulting on debt to their other company. So I don't know. I'd look that up before making any decisions.
Yeah, they got to. I think they're in the process of cleaning this story up. So, but it is interesting. You know, volume speaks volumes, and if this is just purely a momentum play, you know, same thing as the rest. If I'm not mistaken, that Riot, they're also under SEC investigation right now too. So, you know, caveat emptor, buyer beware. All right. Did you want to mention something about pot stocks, or maybe shall we call it a day?
Yeah, let's just call it a Mimble Wimble and have a good weekend.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your contribution, sir. Excellent job as always. I apologize if I cut you off too much. Thank you very much for the community. Bobo, Jamie, anybody else who was posting. I think one gentleman was posting about that Mimble Wimble stuff earlier. Can't remember who, Mike, I think it was. I'm not positive, but thank you so much for those contributions. What do you think, Mr. Mayor? Did we give these guys some value here today?
Yeah, my shirt is starting to itch, so I guess I gotta head out here.
Okay. All right. You guys have yourselves an awesome rest of your day. We have a new level 2 class that's starting up here. It's sort of semi-automated. So I think we're going to kick it off next week. So next week should probably be the start of that. So, you know, if you did register for that semi-automated class, get ready to rock and roll. Zach, of course, is our TA for that program coming up here. So super excited to be working with Zach here on the back end. 12 weeks. Yeah, 12 weeks is the duration. Yeah. Okay, so why don't we leave it at that? Look out for broiler chickens on Sunday, as Thomas always counsels us. Let's maybe, be very cautious through the weekend. Don't chase anything in the market. That's for darn sure. And of course, remember what your number one job in this game is. So have yourselves a great weekend, everybody. If I don't talk to you now, Thomas is already gone, but we'll see everybody back in the saddle for Daily Brief first thing Monday morning. All right. All the best. And Mr. Mayor, if you could take us out of here, bye for now.